Hello, TheLadyKeziah here. Did you know that the meaning of all behavior is entirely dependent on the context in which it appears? Did you know? Right. Let's have a conversation around the present proximity. Why context is the architect of meaning. Bibi and Sikwa, Bibinti, and a Bibi so is here. In our attempt to understand the world and the people within, we often seek to categorize behaviors as good or bad, effective or ineffective. We look at an action, a loud voice, a sudden silence, a sharp correction, and attempt to assign it a fixed value. However, a grounded understanding of human nature reveals that behavior has no inherent or universal meaning. Yes, instead, the meaning of all behavior, just like I said, is entirely dependent on the context in which it appears. Like a diamond that reflects different colors depending on the light hitting it, an action only reveals its true nature when viewed through the lens of its environment, timing, and intent. Let's consider the following then. Number 1, the geography of action. Context acts as the geography that gives a behavior its boundaries and purpose. Consider the act of running. You run, right? Yeah, let's consider running. If a person is running on a track, the behavior is interpreted as discipline and athleticism. If that same person is running through a crowded airport, the behavior signifies urgency or anxiety. If they are running away from a dark alley, it signifies fear and survival. Seeing somebody running from a dark alley, of course, the person is afraid. It signifies fear and survival. It's the same running. The physical movement is identical, but the meaning is transformed by the setting. Do you get it now? Right. In your professional life, this is the difference between boldness and arrogance. I said to you, all of us, the difference between boldness and arrogance. Speaking up with a new idea during a brainstorming session where innovation is the goal is boldness. Speaking over a mentor who is providing necessary correction in a session where you should be staying quiet with your rising, that is arrogance. It's the same speaking up, right? The behavior, speaking up, is the same. But the context determines whether it is an asset or a liability. Number 2, the relational environment. As we have discussed, those of you who have watched my video, The Architecture of the Inner Circle, behavior is also interpreted through the lens of relationship. A sharp, direct critique from a mentor who wishes you well is an act of love and investment. That same sharp critique from a tormentor is an act of control and suppression. Without understanding the relational context, the history, the power dynamic, and the mutual goals, we cannot accurately judge the behavior. This is why a whole crowd can be wrong about your actions. They can only see the behavior, but they do not see the context of the internal shift you are currently navigating. The growth within you, they can't understand. Number 3, the context of the season. Timing is perhaps the most critical element of context. Timing is the most critical, perhaps the most critical element of context. In the 365-day transformation roadmap, those small videos I did on my timeline you can watch, there is a time for phase 1, which is the foundation, and a time for phase 4, the integration. A behavior like rest might be seen as laziness during a critical project timeline. However, that same rest is seen as wisdom and stewardship during a season of burnout or spiritual reflection. You cannot live on yesterday's wins because the context of today has changed. What worked in 2025 might be self-sabotage in 2026 because the new season demands a new set of behaviors. Being grounded means having the discernment to know which behavior fits the current climate of your life. Your life. Number 4, the danger of decontextualization. The danger of decontextualization. One of the greatest sources of conflict and misunderstanding is decontextualization. The act of pulling a behavior out of its environment to judge it in isolation. That's what a lot of bloggers did. The statement was made within a context, and yet they'll pull only that sentence out of its environment, out of the whole scenario, and just judge it in isolation. This is what happens when people from your past judge your new identity shift. They see your new boundaries as unkindness. Why has she changed that much? Why is she behaving this way? They see your identity shift as being unkind because they are viewing them through the context of your old self, where you had no boundaries, where you couldn't say no to anything. Your old self, that's subservient self. They fail to see that in the context of your rising, those boundaries are actually self-preservation. So, to be truly wise is to stop looking at what people do and start looking at where and why they are doing what they are doing. When you understand that meaning is contextual, you become more empathetic towards other people's battles and more intentional with your own actions. Did you get it? When you understand that meaning is contextual, you become more empathetic towards other people's battles. You derive empathy for other people, and you become more intentional with your own actions. You realize that to glorify God with your hands, you must not only do good work, but to do the right work for the right moment. Should I repeat? When you become empathetic towards other people's battles, you don't sit down and judge people because they are going through their seasons of life, their process of life. You become more empathetic towards other people's battles and more intentional with your own actions. You realize that to glorify God with your hands, you must not only do good work, but do right work for the right moment. As we forge ahead in 2026, don't just change your behaviors. Change your understanding of the context you are in. Should I repeat? As we forge ahead this year, 2026, don't just change your behaviors. Change your understanding of the context you are in. When the environment changes, your response must evolve with it. When the environment changes, your response must evolve with it. Think about these things. Much love and blessings.